I'm J.R. Church. Welcome to today's analysis of the news. This report from Fox News and NASA: Jupiter has been struck by an asteroid or a comet and has left an impact on the surface of Jupiter the size of the Earth. This happened on Sunday. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory confirmed the discovery using its Large Infrared Telescope at the summit of Mauna Kea in Hawaii. And a computer programmer, Anthony Wesley, discovered the impact zone while stargazing at home. News of Wesley's find on a backyard 14.5-inch reflecting telescope has stunned the astronomy world, with scientists saying that the impact will last only a few days more. Wesley said that it took him 30 minutes to realize that a dark spot rotating in Jupiter's clouds on July 19th was actually the first impact seen by astronomers since a comet collided with the giant planet in July of 1994. Do you remember when the comet's 21 fragments peppered I think it was the southern hemisphere of Jupiter? Well, another comet has now hit. By the way, back in 1994, there were some Jewish rabbis who were saying that God was giving a message to Israel. Is God giving another message to Israel? Is this a message of the end times? Is this a sign of the times? Signs in the heavens? Well, tomorrow is going to be the big day when the solar eclipse will take place across India and China. The cover story of our July 2009 issue of Prophecy in the News magazine. You can see a picture of the Earth here with the tracking of the solar eclipse across the surface from India through China and out across the Pacific Ocean. This particular eclipse, which cannot be seen in the northern hemisphere or in the United States, will be seen by more people than any solar eclipse has ever been seen before in the history of humanity. Why? Because China and India are two of the most populous countries in the world, and each of them with over 1 billion population. Tracking across the large metropolitan centers of India and China, this solar eclipse will darken the sky until the stars come out for 6.6 minutes. That comes up in the next few hours. As you're watching this broadcast or this webcast, it will occur. So, these are interesting days in which we live. Now back to planet Earth. Haaretz, that's an Israeli newspaper, has reported that the United States has demanded that Israel stop building in East Jerusalem. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Sunday that he had been surprised by a recent U.S. demand that Israel halt a construction project in a Palestinian neighborhood in East Jerusalem. He said, "I was surprised by the U.S. move." He said, "In my conversation with President Obama, I told him that I could not accept any limitations on our sovereignty in Jerusalem. I told him Jerusalem is not a settlement and that it has nothing to do with discussions on a freeze." Netanyahu's comments came after both Israel Radio and Army Radio reported that the U.S. State Department had summoned Israeli Ambassador Michael Oren over the weekend to advise him that the project developed by American millionaire Irving Moskowitz should not go ahead. As of Sunday evening, Haaretz had not received a response from U.S. officials on the report. Netanyahu said, "I won't cave in on this matter." He added, "During my previous tenure, I built thousands of housing units in East Jerusalem neighborhood of Har Homa, and I went against the world. Therefore, it is clear that in the present situation, I will not cave in, all the more so since it's a matter of only 20 housing units." Earlier Sunday, Netanyahu said Israel's sovereignty over Jerusalem was not a matter up for discussion. Netanyahu told ministers at the weekly cabinet meeting that Jerusalem is the united capital of Israel and that all citizens are allowed to purchase property in any part of the city they choose. He said, imagine what would happen if someone were to suggest that Jews could not live or purchase property in certain neighborhoods in London, New York, Paris, or Rome. The international community would certainly object. Likewise, we cannot accept such a ruling on East Jerusalem. He said Israeli Arabs are not forbidden to buy houses in West Jerusalem, and Jews must be granted the same right in the eastern part of the city. Palestinian chief negotiator Saeb Erekat denounced the Israeli response, saying Netanyahu understands that a peace agreement is impossible unless East Jerusalem is deemed the Palestinian capital. Wow. Moskowitz had purchased the Shepherd Hotel in East Jerusalem. That's the one, I think it is, just behind the hill of Calvary, where Protestant Christians have long believed that Jesus was crucified. And just on the north side of that hill, in the northern slopes of the hill, the Shepherd Hotel was purchased in 1985. He now plans to tear it down and build housing units in its place. The hotel is located near a government compound that includes several government ministries and the National Police headquarters. I've stayed in that hotel on previous trips to Israel. And it's a hotel. And now they want to tear it down and build condos. Why not? But our president doesn't like the idea of the Jews building anything in East Jerusalem. Here's another bit of interesting news from Israel Today. Jordan revokes the citizenship of thousands of Palestinians. Jordan this week began revoking the citizenship of Palestinians who have personal roots in what this article calls Judea and Samaria, in other words, living in Israel. Jordanian officials told reporters that the decision was made in order to head off any possible Israeli plans to evict Palestinians from Judea and Samaria and demand that Jordan take them in. Jordanian Interior Ministry Nayev Hakadi told the London-based Arabic daily Al Hayat that he doesn't view the move as a revocation of citizenship, but rather the correcting of a mistake made when Jordan officially severed all administrative ties to Judea and Samaria in 1988. Al-Qadi said Jordan wants the Palestinians to adhere to their true identity and nationality rather than be seen as Jordanians. He ignored the fact that about 70% of Jordan's population is self-defined as Palestinian. Because Jordan, a name given to the region by the British, is in fact a nation of Palestinians, some Israeli politicians who are now part of the ruling coalition have argued that a Palestinian state in fact already exists and that Israel should not have to surrender land in order to create a second Palestinian state. Originally, Jordan was considered the Palestinian state. Here's another bit of news.